Okay, I'm going to go ahead and walk through our performance task today, which is checkpoint number 1, which goes back to one of our supporting questions for our overall inquiry. So as you can see, you're going to work with a partner to analyze primary and secondary sources about the influences that cause people to migrate west in westward expansion. You're going to fill in a chart by categorizing each of those sources into either a political, economic, social, or geographic category based on the information that you understand from each source. You will also need to justify your reasoning of why you put that source in that column based on the impact that it has. Keep in mind that there's not a minimum number of sources for each column. Just be sure to justify why you are putting it there. And think about some of these sources could go in multiple different columns, and that's okay. Just be sure to justify the reasoning for putting it in the different columns. You will need to submit this chart when it's completed, and you have all of those sources linked on, or not linked, but written out on there. And this is due by the end of class today. So let's go ahead and get started. If you look at Canvas here in just a second, you're going to see the actual assignment, and that's everything that we just went over. You can see that there is a rubric here down here at the bottom. So let's unpack this rubric really quickly together. As you can see, your first criteria is going to be your sources. So all of the sources need to be put in a specific category in order to gain all 50 points. Okay. Then you will justify why you put each of the sources into a separate category. So in order to get full credit and full 50 points, you need to accurately and insightfully justify why each of those sources belongs in each section of that chart. So the justification needs to go above the obvious and beyond the obvious and make connections. This is to get the advanced 50 points. And so you can make connections to other topics, other ideas, or any prior learning that you already have in order to get the advanced 50-point credit. Okay. If not, then, and you just basically give an overview and you just state why it is there and it is accurate, then you will get the proficient points. Okay. So go ahead and you can unpack the rest of the rubrics and you can see where you want to fall and what you kind of want to work towards. Okay, if you have any questions, you can definitely ask your teacher before you get started. So let's go ahead and now look at our assignment. So you're needing to open up the primary and secondary sources link. You also need to open up the chart that is linked here, and this one will force you to make a copy. So go ahead and do that now. And then let's go ahead and take a look around at some of these things that we've just opened. So here is the westward expansion sources that we're looking at, the primary and secondary sources. As you can see, there's various different sources listed here. All of these sources are going to be needing to be on your chart with a justification and reasoning of why you put it in the correct column on the chart. Okay. So these are your sources that you're going to be using, and then you will be using your document here in order to place them in the column and give your reasoning. So let's try one together. Okay, so you can go in any order that you want to on this. It doesn't necessarily matter. You just have to do all of them. So let's go ahead and click on, let's do source C, Manifest Destiny. So if you click the plus sign and then click on the actual link. So keep in mind, the name of this source is Manifest Destiny, okay? And then let's go ahead and click on the link itself. And here you can see it's just an excerpt from The Great Nation of Futurity in the United States Democratic Review. And you can go ahead and read through this. And based on the information that you gather here, you're going to think to yourself, does this source, is it more aligned with the political aspects, economic, geographic, or social aspects of westward expansion and migration? So from there, you will then go to your document and you're going to write Manifest Destiny source in one of these columns. based on how you think it best is exuded through that excerpt. Okay. And so go ahead and take some time to read through this, and then you will add it there. Okay. So for example, you get to decide where you want it to go. So I might say that manifest destiny source. Okay. I'm going to put this maybe in social. And then I have to justify why did I put it in this social column. So if I'm thinking it's impacting the people the most, then I would look back at my rubric so I know how I need to justify it. So I have my source, okay, check. And now I really want to get the 50 points. So I need to provide insight. And that means that my justification goes beyond the obvious. So for me, just to write in that column that the manifest destiny source belongs in the social column because it impacts all people of the United States in westward migration. Okay. And then I'm going to have to think to myself, okay, so does that provide insight and depth in my explanation? Does that accurately answer it? Or is that even just a limited explanation based on the rubric? So let's look at the rubric one more time. And well, I'm not really making any connections to anything else. It's pretty accurate, right? And then partially, well, maybe somewhere between here and there. So I really want to work towards that 50 though. So let me go back and I'm going to revise my statement. So I might go into mentioning something about this source demonstrates the purpose of westward expansion, which is to gain more land and power for the United States, as they had a common understanding and belief that the U.S. was destined to expand from the East Coast to the West Coast. The idea, manifest destiny, impacted a variety of people in the United States, in which it forced some of them to move westward, such as the natives. And I can remember that prior to that, many of them were forced against their will to move. But other Anglos chose to move westward to seek new opportunity and developments. So as you can see here, this goes above and beyond an explanation of what that source is actually talking about. Okay. And so that is the goal, is to explain why did I put it in the social aspect. I don't really want to go into the economic part, because if I did, then I need to move the manifest destiny source into the economic column. So I'm really going to speak from the social aspect and how it impacted the people. Okay. So that's just one example on how you can do this. And again, There's really not necessarily a right or a wrong answer where some of these sources can lend itself. It depends on the source, but as long as you can justify the reasoning for putting it into the column that you chose, we're really looking for your justification and see if you can make the connection about the political, economic, geographic, and social aspects of Western migration. Okay, so it's all about that justification. So when you get finished with those, then you will go ahead and submit this on Canvas. And this is due by the end of the period. If you have any questions, feel